Okay, we're streaming.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Miss Martin, it looks like everybody's on, so let's call
Yes, sir.
Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting for Monday, May 11th to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chair Christopher Rivera,
Here.
Councilor Amana Beta,
Here.
Councilor Signe Lindell, Councilor Lindell,
Here.
Councilor Joanne Viho Coppler,
Here.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Miss Martin. Next, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff, either Shannon or John?
Mr. Chair, from utilities.
Anything, John? Is John Romero on yet?
I don't see him, Counselor.
Yeah, I don't either.
We try to give him a call, Joe, and see if,
You got it, sir.
talked to him earlier today.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to approval of the consent agenda. Did you have any changes, Shannon?
Mr. Chair, I had no changes. Thank you.
All right, anything committee members would like to pull? Counselor Vihil Coppler?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull 7E and F.
Counselor Beta?
No, nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, Counselor Garcia?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Counselor Lindell?
Yeah, I believe mine were F and G.
I got those. Thank you, F and G. And I also had a couple questions on F as well. All right.
Counselor Rivera, John Romero has called in. He is in now.
All right, John, let's move up to approval of the agenda real quick. Did you have any changes, John?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'll work on my video. Yes, I have one small change, Mr. Chair. I'd like to postpone item 8 until our May 26th meeting.
Which item was it, Mr. Chair?
Number 8.
Oh, okay.
All right, so postpone item 8 till our next meeting.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, with that change, what are the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion for approval is amended by Counselor Vihil Coppler, a second by Counselor Beta. Can we have a roll call, please, Miss Martin?
Chair Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Amana Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Signe Lindell,
Yes.
Councilor Joanne Viho Coppler,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Back to approval of the consent agenda at item E pulled by Counselor Vihil Coppler, item F by Counselor Vihil Coppler, Counselor Lindell, and myself. Item G, Counselor Lindell. And that was it. Anything else from the committee? What are the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
A motion for approval is amended by Counselor Vihil Coppler, a second by Counselor Lindell. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Martin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chair Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Amana Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Signe Lindell,
yes,
Counselor Joanne Vihil Coppler,
Yes,
Counselor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Next, approval of the minutes from April 27th, Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting. Any changes from staff?
No, Mr. Chair.
Shannon?
Mr. Chair, none from utilities.
All right, any changes from the committee?
Move for approval.
second,
A motion for approval of the minutes by Counselor Beta, a second by Counselor Lindell. We have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Martin?
Chair Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Commissioner Romano Beta, I'm sorry, Counselor Romano Beta.
Yes.
Sorry. Counselor Signe Lindell,
yes,
Counselor Joanne Vihil Coppler,
yes,
and Counselor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Next, public comment. Do we have anything, Ms. Pisula, from members of the public?
No, Mr. Chair, no.
Very good, thank you. We're on to our consent agenda. Item E, request for award of bid and approval of the construction agreement with RMCI. Counselor Vihil Coppler, you pull this one?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to admit my lack of scientific knowledge first before I ask my question of Shannon Jones. And so this is $12,800,000 and just my simple question is, after 481 days as written in the memorandum, will the wastewater plant be fixed?
Mr. Councilor Vihil Coppler, the upgrade to the aeration system will make a dramatic impact for the wastewater treatment plant, especially in their biological process that we've been talking a lot about.
So you said it would make a dramatic difference, or what did you say?
Yes, ma'am, it would make a dramatic difference for the wastewater treatment plant.
So, so what you're saying in response to my question is that, like, percentage maybe, like, what is dramatic difference? Is it going to water the grasses and such that we're committed to watering?
Councilor Vihil Coppler, the addition to the aeration project is going to do multiple things. One, it's going to extend the control system into the secondary process. It's going to replace infrastructure, including isolation valves. That control, it's going to replace the blower system. All of these things create challenges for the facility as how they look at managing the aeration system. And so again, this is going to get us a long ways. I believe what you're asking me is will the plant still experience upsets? And will that be an issue? My answer is I still do anticipate that the plant potentially could still become upset. But what we will be doing is equipping the facility with the ability to respond faster and with more precision in the controls that they make.
Are we watering the courses now, or are we still shut down? I lost track.
Currently, the treated effluent system is up and running. Since this weekend, they have been receiving treated effluent.
So since we had our last special council meeting, when it was working, then it stopped working. And now it's working again, right? Is that what you just said?
That is correct.
So when will the golf course open? Do you know?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Vihil Coppler, I cannot speak to when they would open the golf course. No, I apologize. I'm more than happy to get that information for you, though.
I saw that the Santa Fe Country Club was open, but that's because they had storage of water, right? And so, but we didn't, Marty Sanchez didn't get to open. So that's the only difference, right? Is that the country club had storage. But it's not that we're dragging our feet. It's just that we didn't have the capacity to water after that last special meeting.
Councilor Vieira-Coppler again, I don't know that I can speak to the specifics of the actual opening of the golf course. I do know that the Marty Sanchez Golf Course and the MRC both have on-site storage in their ponds. So if there is a dramatic difference between the two, I apologize. I couldn't speak to that.
Okay, you know what? Well, for two reasons. One, I mean, it's a small, I don't know how small it is, but it's a source of revenue for our courts, our to be open. And it's a loss of revenue for our residents to go, or our golfers to go over to Santa Fe Country Club and TOA and Albuquerque. And so it concerns me, but you know, just the reliance and the reliability, I guess, of the wastewater treatment plant to operate. And now we have $12,800,000 before us. And, you know, I just want to make sure we get something for that. And you're telling me that you think we will, that it's pretty good chance that it may not be sufficient in the future, but should we do this, it will make a big difference. And I guess what is the significance of 181 calendar days? That's an odd number.
Mr. Chair, Councilor Vieira-Coppler, as far as the time schedule, if I may, I'd like to defer to Mr. Martinez, James Martinez, who's with us.
Okay.
Hello, this is James. Am I online?
Yes, you are.
Hi, Counselor. The 481, we were just picking that day. We have our permit renewal process in place, and it becomes effective October 1st, 2021. So that time frame is kind of fitting in to meet that schedule in order for us to be online before that permit goes, before it's needs to be renewed. Sorry.
Okay, so it's based on the permitting schedule, not necessarily completion of the work.
Correct. We have completion work time frame milestones that the contractor does need to meet within that time for completion of certain items. But yes, you're correct. That 481 days is the days that need to be in place in order for us to meet that deadline.
Okay, thank you. So Shannon, I would just like to request an email or something, if maybe you could touch base with the MRC and find out, you know, and then just respond by email, like what's going on with the Marty Sanchez, with the MRC and especially the golf course and anticipated opening. I think at least my constituents that I know are pretty, they're getting pretty antsy. And, you know, we've gotten a lot of stop, go. And since we're all kind of stuck doing, you know, filling up our time with whatever, an opportunity for golf is something that's become very important to a lot of people. So thank you very much. If you could email me, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am, I will get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Shannon. Any other questions from any other committee members? All right, what are the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Councilor Viejo-Coppler, a second by Councilor Garcia for item E. Any further discussion? See none, can we have a roll call, Ms. Martin?
Yes, sir. Chair Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Council Romana Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Signe Lindell,
yes,
Councilor Joanne Vihil Coppler,
Yes,
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Next to item F, request for approval of amendment number 3 to the original PSA contract number 18-0910 to Mountain River Consulting. Councilor Lindell, you pulled this one off.
thank
earlier
you, Chair.
today.
Okay, I'm on, let's see, I am on page 15 of the packet. And on there, it talks about, first of all, who from staff is addressing this?
Nancy is on the call.
Okay, Nancy, are you addressing it?
I believe she needs to be promoted to panelist.
Panelist.
She has been.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order. I don't have page 15 on this packet.
Counselor, I'm just going by when you, I'm on a iPad.
Oh, I
And
know what you're doing.
are you okay with it? Have you found it?
Title Mountain River Consulting.
Yeah, I guess really it would be after page 12 and the caption on it is Mountain River Consulting, and in the middle of the page, it's, or upper third, it says position, Senior JD Edwards Specialist, fee per hour, $135. You got it?
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Nancy, are you able to get on now?
I am, yes, and I do apologize. I don't have video on my computer in my office, so you'll just hear me.
Okay.
Hi, Nancy. Could you just give us a very quick overview of what the request is?
Yeah, so what it is it's the third year of a 4-year contract, and we do need to bring this forward to all of the committees each year to increase that third or fourth year. So this would be the third year of theoretically a 4-year contract with Mountain River. They are the consulting group that works with our current UCIS billing system. They have been instrumental in creating the ties between our UCIS billing system and the financial system. So the E1 system that that finance used to have, and now of course Munis that we've moved into. So this is just that additional third year for their consulting, I guess you could say, knowledge and better IT support, unfortunately, than what potentially our IT department, since there's so few of them, to make sure that our system bills correctly and works for our utility customers.
Okay, is this for, is this proposal for an additional 280,000 to take the full contract to 700?
No, ma'am, this is for an additional 700,000 for next fiscal year. The original contract for the first year was 280,000. The second year it did increase, which is the current fiscal year that we're in now, to 700,000. And we will be asking for that 700,000 for next fiscal year. However, of course, hope that we don't need to spend that much.
Okay. So here's my problem with this. We're contracting for $700,000, the way I understand this, for $135 an hour plus travel and per diem, I suppose. That comes out to almost 5,200 hours which is 2.5 full-time people at $280,000 a year. It just seems way too expensive. How can it possibly be this much money? I mean, are there not people that can be hired to just work on this for less than $280,000 a year? And, you know, maybe we need to review the entire thing. I don't know, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I do understand your concern. And I do know, you know, we review every item that that Mountain River consults. We do have phone message or phone calls with them. One of the individuals actually that is under this contract lives here in Santa Fe, and she's actually a retired city employee. So she really does have the utmost background and experience for what we need through this system. Unfortunately, the UCIS system is 20 years old, and there aren't a whole lot of consultants or even employees that we could hire, you know, to work an 8-hour day through the city. And that's unfortunately why we're kind of where we're at right now with Mountain River. We will hopefully be bringing forward in the next couple of months the movement away from UCIS and into a new billing system, which is through Advanced. And then at some point, you know, in the near future, this Mountain River contract would almost cease to exist once we have that new billing system up and running and you know, and moving forward with that new system. But yes, the $135 does seem very steep. There is no, at this point, travel or per diem or anything like that due to the individual living here in Santa Fe. So there isn't any, at least that cost, but there is the $135 per hour when, you know, something is either needed to be rewritten or the interfaces between, you know, our old system and of course now the new Munis system with the finance department.
I know, but at $135 an hour, we're talking about 5,200 hours. That seems impossible to me. I mean, that's hiring a consultant, two and a half full-time people at $280,000 a year each. And we're looking at it again for next year. Fiscally, I don't think I can support this. If we've got a retired person that has found themselves a secondary gig at $135 an hour, good for them. But two and a half full-time people, it doesn't make sense to me. That would be way by far the highest paid person in this city. I appreciate your explanation of it, but it just seems like too much money to me. Maybe someone else has a comment on it.
Thank you, Councilor Lindell. Councilor Vihil Coppler, you also pulled this from the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll go back to, I wasn't intending to ask this, but based on Councilor Lindell's comments, I'll ask Nancy, what do you see as the cost benefit? If we didn't approve this, what are we losing?
Well, we're losing the communication between our billing system and the financial system, the Munis system. We won't be able to actually have the communication between our billing system to get it into the finance system. So the revenues that we receive through our billing system then would not communicate with the Munis system. So we would really be looking at two different financial systems. And I don't believe that that's what finance, you know, wants us to do. The Munis system is the new financial system that we do need to report to the state with. So we would be losing all of that interaction. The IT department I know uses or assists with, you know, the Mountain River contract with items that they, you know, need Mountain River's consulting for. I'm sorry, I'm not an IT expert, so I'm not sure. I'd have to get, you know, some answers from Josh Alessio to tell you specifically what she might be working on with, you know, the IT department. And then just our billing system itself, we do have and had some issues just, you know, Thursday in our billing of cycle 3, or excuse me, cycle 1. You know, just in that if you don't do the billing in a specific order through this checklist, then unfortunately you've got to stop the billing, sort of reset it with the help of these consultants that can do the things on the back side, or the IT side, I guess you could say. You know, and I mean, our billing right now takes about 3 hours at night every Thursday after 5 o'clock. So once we've basically shut down the system, then we, you know, do the billing for the 3 hours. So it is quite labor intensive, and I would really hope that we could, you know, find a middle ground. I don't want to spend the whole $700,000 either. But unfortunately, there are some things that we just don't have the expertise here to fix for, you know, the customers and for the bills that go out each week.
Thank you. I would think that another benefit would be that if we do have someone who is already educated and certainly knowledgeable about the city's billing system, that would be save us miles of time, because they already know there's not a learning curve for studying up and then doing the work. And I remember some time ago, before I was a city councilor, I was a receiver of really bad utility service billing, the worst I've ever seen. It was just awful, and I couldn't fix it, and city couldn't fix it. It was terrible, and I'd hate to go back to those days, you know. So I guess, yes, it is a lot of money, but maybe it could be more if we didn't have a reliable person working with us on this, and too bad it costs this much. But if you don't spend the whole 700, that would be great. Maybe we wouldn't. But my question, and initially when I told this, is it did say that you asked for this in your next year's budget request, and knowing what we're going through now with, you know, pretty hard times, and we're seeing this contract now, what if we approve this, but then you're not successful in getting this money? What happens then?
If the budget's not approved, then unfortunately all of our contracts would have to be looked at and either cut, or we have the 30-day clause to cancel it. So, you know, really, as we move forward, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of departments that are bringing contracts forward now in May and June that need to start in July, but the budget may or may not be approved. So it really is, you know, kind of a timing issue, that once, or if we know what the budget looks like, then of course we do go back through our budget once it's been approved, like we would every fiscal year, and either modify contracts or make adjustments or renegotiate if we need to do that. Just so, you know, there's a clause in every contract that allows for those due to fiscal impact or fiscal reasons. And then again, we do have the, you know, the 30-day clause where if something does happen, you know, we can cancel the contract just with a 30-day notice.
Well, being that this is an enterprise fund, I mean, we're taking this from, you know, it's kind of in a circle. We're taking it from customer revenue, right?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
So it kind of behooves us to keep collecting it.
You are correct. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Garcia, you had your hand up, and then Councilor Lindell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is, well, how much did we spend on this last year?
We are currently at 575,000 for this fiscal year. We still have May and June. We should
So-
do the 700,000.
So you're thinking we're on track to spend 700,000?
I would certainly hope less, but yes.
Okay, but if we're already, you know, what is it, 575, and you've got 125 left to go in 2 months, we'll probably hit that mark.
Yeah, unfortunately, each week, the billing, you know, is different, just depending on what we've needed them to work on with us. You know, what's come up. I do know that the conversion into or with Munis has been a little bit probably higher than what I would like each week, just to make sure that, you know, that communication is happening from the new finance system in our, you know, in our UCIS system.
Okay. And so, I mean, it sounds like we're going to hit that mark this year. I mean, the plan is then they'll probably hit the mark next year. I mean, the money's on the table. As a consultant, if the money's there, they're going to do their work to try to get every single penny from it. And that's, you know, that's capitalism. They're going to do their best to do that. So then my next question is, you know, why 4 years? And what are the next steps after this contract is done? If our systems don't necessarily talk to each other and the consultant is the expert that's kind of guiding us, what happens next? Are we setting up any type of sustainability plan to where we don't need to hire a high-priced consultant? And why isn't that already taking place with the first year of this plan, where year one, we start training folks to learn our systems, and that way we don't have to be in this process where we're having to hire a consultant?
I can't speak for the many years ago. I can speak, of course, for about the last year. And we are still simultaneously trying to bring forward a new billing system, which is an advanced, it's called advanced, where, you know, we're trying to bring that forward, which then ultimately will almost eliminate the Mountain River Consulting group, you know, so that the advanced new billing system will talk to the Munis billing system for finance, or I should say for the whole city's finance. And, you know, this middle kind of consultant then basically goes away. Once we have advanced and everything is written in code correctly, then from our billing system, it'll go straight into Munis, and there shouldn't be the need. I, you know, can't say that 100% that there's never going to be a need for a consultant, but there shouldn't be as much of a need with a new billing system versus the 20-year-old system that we have now.
Okay, so I guess the question is, why aren't we investing our resources in this program called Advance versus kind of putting a Band-Aid on it and just kicking the can down the road, so to speak?
So the advanced system, the initial startup for that was back in 2013. And it stalled out. The advanced company was here for several months. And for whatever reason at that time, it was version 3. We just couldn't, or utility billing couldn't get the advanced system to work for what we needed to do for billing of the trash and billing for wastewater and billing for water. So there has been sort of a temporary on hold, I guess you could say Advanced was. They have now moved to a version 4. They did an upgrade on their, you know, on their software. They do believe that now with what we do bill out of UCIS, they have upgraded their systems so that their version 4 will allow us to basically do everything that we asked for them to do back in version 3 that couldn't happen. So right now, I would say Mountain River is the kind of Band-Aid that's helped us over the last couple of years to get advanced, moving in the right direction. We had to renegotiate contracts. We had to renegotiate dollar amounts with Advanced. And that is, like I said, hopefully what I bring forward. I'm hoping next public utility meeting, Public Works Public Utility meeting now in May. Worst case, it would be the first meeting in June. But we do believe that we do have a good contract now renegotiated with Advanced so that we can move forward. Mountain River will, of course, still be consulting with that switchover from the old system to potentially the Advanced system and making sure that everything is transparent and goes over to Munis correctly. And then, like I said, Mountain River Consulting should go down to a very minimal contract if one is needed at all.
Okay, so what, because that was leading me to my next question of, in year 4, is there anything we can start putting in place where, should an amendment be requested for year 4, can we have confidence that it's going to be a request lower than what it is now?
That is my plan. Advanced is going to take about 12 to 14 months to, make sure that we test and implement and get it all ready. Which if we can start Advanced July-ish of 2020, then we're looking at maybe August or September of 2021, having a good new updated billing system. And then at that point, I should have a better understanding even in sort of the middle of next fiscal year, January, February, as to what at all, if we need Mountain River, a couple of months just to make sure everything's going okay. But I really do hope that Mountain River's contract, I won't need year 4. And if I do, it will be very, very minimal. And again, I can come back in 6 months and let you know sort of where we're at with Advanced, what Mountain River is going to be looking like for fiscal year 21-22, or the 4th year of the contract.
Okay. Now, I think that it's prudent of us to start looking at next steps, given that this is the contract, or this current MOU is entering in 3 of 4. And so we want to start planning in that, because this is a lot of money. I'm in line with Councilor Lindell. This is a lot of money. And we should be looking at how we can be getting away from bringing on high-priced consultants. And I understand they are going to be necessary at times, but for 4 years in a row, I think we need to be, if we're going to be doing that, we need to ensure that we're building the sustainability behind it.
I absolutely agree.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lindell.
Yeah, so the number of hours that we have on this contract, are we using a consultant for 100 hours a week?
We actually have 3 individuals that is under this contract, but not all 3 of those individuals bill $100 a week. No, ma'am. It depends each week what we need them to do for us.
I'm just saying that this contract allows them to bill the 3 consultants. Between the 3 of them, it's 100 hours a week that we're paying in consulting fees. It just, I don't know, it seems like maybe we could have picked up the ball on some of this and been able to have done some of this work ourselves. Advance, that's been a long process. If we've been working on that since 2013, I'm concerned about how that's going to work out. I mean, we're talking about that maybe in 2021, 22. That's going to be a 9-year-old system by the time we get it up and running. This is a 20-year-old system that just year after year, it's $700,000. And it doesn't matter to me that it's an enterprise fund and that the fund is generating the money to pay for it. It just feels like too much money and too much consulting cost to me, working on what is clearly a system that it feels like we're throwing good money after bad. So I know you haven't worked on it for that long. You haven't been over there that long, but this is my internal fiscal clock will not let me support this. So that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lindell. Any other questions? Nancy, I think my questions were asked by staff already, but I'm sorry, by counselors already, but I have to tend to agree. I wouldn't want, J.D. Edwards at some point has to go away, and I'm looking forward to that point. So I'll support this for now, but would like to see it, this contract disappear sooner than later.
Absolutely. I have a tendency to believe you very, very much, Counselor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, what would the committee like to do with this item?
Move to approve.
A motion for approval. I will second for discussion purposes. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote, Ms. Martin.
Counselor Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romana Beta,
No.
Counselor Signe Lindell,
No,
Counselor Joanne Vihel Coppler,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia.
No.
The motion does not pass, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Beta, did this pass the Finance Committee?
No, Mr. Chairman, and it hasn't gone to finance. I look at the agenda, it says it's scheduled for the 18th, and I was gonna suggest whether this passed or not, that before it gets to, or at finance, we have maybe IT support and other departments that may want to chime in on this as to its importance and why we're continuing to use this service.
I agree with that, Ms. Jimenez. So you'll probably need some support from IT on this moving forward as to why this is a necessary contract.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move on to item G, request for approval of amendment number 2 to the original PSA with AECOM Technical Services. Councilor Lindell, you pull this one. Councilor Lindell, you're still muted.
thank you. Ms. Jimenez, are you stuck with this one too?
No, ma'am.
Okay, who's got this one?
Let me, I'll need to promote Mr. Jurgensen, I believe. All right, Mr. Jurgensen, are you able to communicate with us? Mr. Jurgensen, can you hear us? Mr. Jurgensen, are you there? I show that he's a panelist, but that I show that I'm not sure.
That's okay.
There he is.
Mr. Chair, so I do
Yes.
have Robert Jorgensen here in my office. And so
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'll let you do that.
Thank you, Chair. Could you just give us a brief overview on this? This is a pretty sizable contract.
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Lindell, councilors. The AECOM contract is an ongoing contract that is used primarily for dam engineering work and for the associated water resources engineering and study work. ACOM has in the past, this is a 4-year contract, and we've used it to investigate and do a analysis, a safety analysis of our 2 dams, Nichols and McClure. And we've done a semi-quantitative risk assessment that has identified and helped prioritize dam safety related improvements that are required. And then we followed that up. This is a task order contract. And that was one of the tasks, to identify what the condition of the dams were and to advise us on and recommend engineering improvements. And so there's, on the 3rd year contract extension, we have several task orders that we're working on now that we're continuing. And primarily they're regarding Nichols Dam. And we've identified, and the State Engineer's Office Dam Safety Bureau has identified safety improvements to the dam. We are working on relining our outlet conduit, doing the engineering work on that. And the next funding cycle in this contract will look at geotechnical and stability investigation. And then it will, once that's determined, then we will continue the rehabilitation plans for Nichols Dam Outlet Works. And we've got the 30% design, and this is basically a stepwise process. And they're also working, and these are all, this is done in conjunction. We've met with the Dam Safety Bureau on all key steps of our work plan to get their input on this, as they are the regulatory agency that has to approve the any dam design changes. And one thing that they'll require is an updated a flood hydrological study. And that's being asked of any time you go and do a large project. We're going to be looking at, especially during climate change, there's new criteria for looking at the storm events and how fast reservoirs would be filled, and the potential for flooding over the top. And then we're also have several smaller tasks that we are working on or have just completed this year, and they are a snow melt prediction tool so we can gauge the runoffs of the watershed, the snowpack. And ACOM serves as the city of Santa Fe as dam owner, our engineer, and this is, and they perform also emergency action planning services. So if there's ever an event, we have a nationally recognized dam engineering and water resources consultant available. And locally, the Albuquerque office, Don Lopez, who was with the Dam Safety Bureau and Corps of Engineers, is under contract to make immediate visits and consultations for dam safety. So basically, we're working on the next step of the dam engineering work for the Nichols Dam.
Thank you. So do you see this as a contract that just goes on for many, many years?
This contract is task-oriented deliverables. And right now, we're seeing a 4-year contract will get us through Nichols Dam rehabilitation, and actually McClure Dam is going to have the same improvements to the outlet conduits, although not quite as expensive because it's not a terminal reservoir, but it will have to have a similar set of improvements.
What was the very, very sizable project on which dam that was completed within the last year or two?
Both Nichols and McClure had the inclined intakes installed to replace the intake towers. And what the prime work that we're doing now is the outlet conduit. This is a 5-foot diameter conduit that goes from the bottom of the reservoir through the dam embankment. Has been identified during state engineer inspections as well as our own engineering inspections. It needs to be relined, which is typical of dams in the 100-year-old range is where we're starting to be.
I'm looking at page 44 of 57 in our packet. I don't know that you necessarily need to go there. It's talking about the payment schedule for fee. It's section 3.3.1. And it says, for services rendered, the owner shall pay the engineer at the rate of 2.97 times direct payroll cost. Is that typical?
Yes, it is.
So whatever the engineer's basic hourly rate is, we pay 3 times that.
Correct.
Why is that?
That's my experience in our water engineering. It's about a 3-to-1 fee, and these are in competitive proposals, and that's very close. Sometimes they're a little bit more or less, but they're usually like theirs is 2.97, and typically it might be maybe 2.85. That's just the standard, I believe.
Did we, was this put out for bid to other firms?
Yes, it was.
And where were the other firms from? Do you know?
I do not. I was not involved. I'm sorry, I don't have the data right here, but yes, it was put out. And I think that the primary method of selection is basically expertise. In the dam engineering expertise is weighted very heavily.
Okay, that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions from any other committee members? Seeing none, what are the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion for approval by Councilor Viejo Coppler, a second by Councilor Beta. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, Ms. Martin?
Yes, sir. Chair Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Romana Beta,
Yes.
Councilor Sidney Lundell,
Yes.
Councilor Joanne Viejo Coppler,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Now we're on to item 9, matters from staff. Let's start with Mr. Jones. Any matters from your side of the house?
None, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I wanted to give you a couple of updates. I wanted to start off with fire station number 2, that project. We received bids for that, and I have Anson Rain in attendance. But I can just explain to you what those bids came in at and where it is relative to our budget.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Councilors, we opened bids for, first of all, can everybody hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Good. We opened bids for the project on Thursday this week. We had 4 pre-qualified contractors. They all submitted bids. And the low bid was, apparent low bid, Franken Construction at $8.4 million.
Mr. Chairman, I did not hear, he bleated out there. I did not hear who that was.
Franken Construction is the apparent low bidder.
Franken?
Franken, yes.
And the dollar amount again?
Just over 8.4 million.
Thank you.
The other bidders were quite close, actually, the two next lowest. So, you know, it was, everybody saw it pretty much the same way, but it is significantly over what we had anticipated and hoped. I have spoken with the architect. You know, I think there's, you know, there potentially might be ways to de-scope some of it potentially. I actually reached out to Franken as well. They had, you know, in terms of maybe some impact from COVID, the getting material might have been an issue that raised some of the price, some of the cost. They also had some issues with some subcontractors not getting a good response on certain trades, wood framing, and some specialized concrete work. So, you know, I think there's potential to look at, you know, again, some de-scope, maybe some value engineering as well with some of the building systems and materials. But it is, you know, we had hoped around, I think, 7 or 7.2 million.
How much, well, actually Chief Babcock's on as well. Chief, I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond and comment on this as well.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So it was quite shocking at the overprice of what the bids came in. So even currently, if the project was at the price that we were anticipating near the $7 million mark, we were still having issues of securing $700,000. So if the station does not move forward, we will have to renegotiate the annexation coverage with the county. But public safety will still be provided for that area. And then again, the biggest concern for me as a fire chief is the recurring cost of needing 6 positions for that fire station. 3 is company officers, captains, and 3 driver engineers. Those are recurring costs of the captain's position is about $120,000 a year salary and benefits times 3. And then the engineer driver is about $90,000 recurring times 3. So those are the concerns of these one-time expenses, even though they're high expenses to build a station, be the recurring costs of staffing that station.
All right, any questions from committee members on this latest news? John, I assume we'll get a sort of future report on this and at some point have to make a decision what it is we want to do.
Yes. So the definitely the price that these bids came in at is weighing heavy on our decision on whether to move forward with the project or not. So once we talk to the county and see what continued coverage by the county looks like, we'll be able to come back to you guys with a more firm recommendation. If we don't move forward with the project, it does free up, you know, roughly $7 million or so of capital funds for capitalizable expenses this upcoming fiscal year.
And Chief Babcock, remind us when we were supposed to have taken over coverage of that area.
Mr. Chair, City of San Felipe would take over January of last year of the annexed area.
All right, so we've had the county taking over up until this station was supposed to be complete. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
All right, so I assume you're going to have discussion with them moving forward.
Mr. Chair, yes, I have been speaking with Chief Litzenberg, and because the mutual aid agreement the closest responding unit will respond, the county will still be providing that service because of the mutual aid agreement in place.
Okay, and then one final question. probably for all three of you is this fire station had some additional aspects to it that may or may not have been needed. One was the tower, which at one point I know you felt was necessary. The other one was individual bathrooms for everyone. Is there a way to relook at that and see if it can come down and possibly be rebid, or is that just minimal dollars in the grand scheme of things?
Mr. Chair, as far as the tower goes, that was going to provide a secondary radio site. Currently, we have one radio site, so if that prime site, as they refer to it, if that were to go down, we don't have a backup plan. So that tower was going to be utilized for two reasons. One as a training facility and one as a secondary communications tower where a point-to-point microwave would be pointed from the tower to the RECC. That's the main reason for the tower. The secondary of the bathrooms, it's more for cancer prevention. We're trying to do a decon area of going from a hot zone to a warm zone to a cold zone where the firefighters have their living quarters. So we're trying to do a gross decon initially on when they arrive back to the station and then separating them from their living quarters. So that was the reasoning for that zone and the separate bathrooms.
Mr. Rain, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to add that I have spoken with the architect, and the tower is a significant cost, just FYI. I mean, if we were to take it out, it would be a significant savings. It would take some effort and some time to do that, although it's to the side, it's fairly isolated to be fairly easy to, in terms of the drawings and design to take it out. So it is a significant cost.
All right. Well, I assume you guys will all communicate in either next meeting or the meeting after, have a presentation for us to decide which way we want to move on this. Anything from the committee members that you would like to see, or any questions you'd like answered regarding the fire station specifically?
Mr. Chair,
Councilor Viejo-Coppler.
In reducing costs for the station, I would not be in favor of reducing the decontamination portion, because I think that is really important to the health, safety, and welfare of firefighters. And it's not, you hardly ever get a chance to have an impact on decontamination because of all of our fire stations are already built and don't include that. But if you look at statistics on health of firefighters, cancer is, from contaminants is really, really high. And it's a big, big risk. So if we have an opportunity to build this station, I don't think we should, again, reduce costs by eliminating the decontamination portion. It's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? John, how much or Chief Babcock, how much did we have budgeted for this station?
Mr. Chair, I believe we had $7 million for this project. It started off at 4.5. Where that number came from, I'm not sure of. And then when we were doing the GRT bond, $1 million was transferred from the radio project to help supplement the fire station build, as well as impact fees. But I believe the cost for that project was about $7 million.
So we're looking about 1.4 million to get this done.
Mr. Chair, that's about the right number, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward then, John, from hearing from you once you've all figured out how we're gonna do this, as well as the other projects that we'll have to make decisions on moving forward.
Okay, thank you. One last update I wanted to give you guys was regarding information from our bond council on how we can utilize some of our funds. As explained, the general obligation bond money is limited to what went out to the voters. So we'll use that information to help us make our decisions on how to prioritize that money. But the gross receipts tax bond money, 2018 bond money, and previous bond sales of that type, those bond proceeds are flexible to a degree. So what we're gonna do is put together, we're gonna start working on this one. This is the capital projects that we're working on and trying to figure out what possible money we could repurpose. The flip side of this process is to determine where we're gonna spend it. And so there's some kind of accounting exercise that has to be done once we determine what we're gonna spend it on and their life expectancy. And it has to be a percentage of the life of the bond, something. So anyways, once we get all that information together, we'll be able to determine how much of that money we can reappropriate and towards what.
Very good. Thank you, John. Anything from the committee on what John just said? All right, see nothing. Next, we're on to matters from the chair. I have nothing. Just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight. Continue to be safe. I know this is getting frustrating for everybody, especially now that the weather's getting warm, but hang in there. We'll all get through this. So unless there's anything else, our next meeting is Tuesday, May 26th. With that, sorry, Councilor Garcia.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the roads team. I know that they recently paved West San Mateo between 2nd and St. Francis. And then I saw Hopewell was paved this week. So big thumbs up to them. Thank you, guys.
Very good. If you can pass that along, John.
Yes, I will do so.
All right. Anything else before we officially adjourn? Very good. Thank you very much. Nice to see you all. Next meeting, Tuesday, May 26th. We are adjourned.
I didn't know I had that background. Sorry about that, guys.
Looks good.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Mhm.